In the 1930s, when Germany assimilated the Rhineland, Austria, Sudetenland, and Czechoslovakia, and finally attacked Poland, which started World War II, enough of the German population supported these efforts. There is now a sizable percentage of the American population who applaud Trump's bombings, kidnappings, piracy, and threats to confiscate allies' territories to enlarge his imperial legacy.
Welcome to this latest edition of the Cranky Curmudgeon's Corner. My name is Paul Thomas. Here to try to extract some sane analysis of the current global situation is the Corner's European ally, Christina. Welcome back, Christina. When Trump posted the letter to Norway's prime minister, which stated that since he wasn't given the Nobel Peace Prize, he didn't care about peace anymore. It reminded me of the playground scenario where the kid who brought the only football to the game decided that if he wasn't allowed to be the captain or the quarterback, he would just take his football and go home. Does Trump appear to you as childish as he does to me?
Yes, I think Trump is totally childish. And I think I remember last time we spoke that I said he reminded me of a spoiled brat.
Mm-hmm.
And that is it. It just the idea that somebody demands a Nobel Peace Prize is just, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, and I don't think it makes sense to anybody in the world. The idea that you can just demand such a prize is, well, yeah. So yes, he is childish. He to me, he from the beginning, but lately even more so, it feels like he is a child who is used to get whatever he wants, and if he doesn't get it, he's gonna throw a fit. I think that's what you're saying, American, right?
Yeah, and you agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The history I was taught as a primary student about World War II was the one side was called the Allies and the other side was called the Axis. A significant feature in describing the Axis to this little elementary student was their totalitarian leaders, Hitler, Mussolini, and Tojo. Today, the aggressive militaristic leaders ready to pounce on their weaker neighbors, in my mind, are Putin, Netanyahu, and Trump. Is my comparison fair or not?
I want to say it's fair, but I don't think so completely.
Let's hear why.
Yeah. I would say absolutely that Putin, and unfortunately also Trump nowadays, and Netanyahu to a certain extent, are authoritarian rulers within their countries, or have become over. Well, I still have hope for America's or the United States democracy, but it goes in a very bad direction. I have a big problem comparing anybody to Hitler, as I think I said in last time or before
I
that.
I gathered that from you last time. Every time we talk, I gather that. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there are a lot of similarities in how these rulers of their countries lead, in a way, like it's very similar to a certain extent of what Hitler did and Mussolini did. But still, they were responsible for millions of dead people, tens of millions of dead people. So I don't want to compare anybody to that.
So let me get you. Let me get this right. So you're basically saying that since the result of their military aggression, I'm talking about the three guys currently, is not the significance or the horror or the millions that had Hitler, that it's not really fair to put them in the same category. Is that what you're saying?
Well, don't get me wrong. Like what Putin is doing with the Ukraine is horrible.
Mhm.
What Netanyahu is doing with the Palestinians is horrible. There is, however, and I feel like as a German, I'm more inclined to. I have difficulties always talking about Israel in a bad way. It's
Mhm.
our history, don't get me wrong. Now, there is this whole history with the Palestinians attacking Israel as well. Like it's been going on for a long time, ever since the state of Israel was founded. So there is like horrible things are happening there. It has a long history. And I don't feel good judging Israel. Do I personally think it's bad what is happening there? Yes, absolutely. Do I want to compare it to what Hitler did? I don't feel okay doing that. Do you know what I mean?
I absolutely.
Do
I
do
appreciate your
yeah.
nuance there. Yeah, right.
Do I condemn what these people are doing? Yes, yes, absolutely. Also with Trump, what he is doing, I condemn what they are doing, but I still think there is a difference. And hell, I hope, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear
You are.
here, but
You are indeed. You are indeed.
I hope that I never change my mind about that, because in case I ever change my mind, it's probably because World War III started, and I
Hmm.
don't want that to happen.
Right.
Okay. So I see your point. I see how bad what is happening is. I still don't feel comfortable to compare any of these to Hitler, German viewpoint.
Very
Yeah.
fair. Very fair. One of the last when we talked last time, I think I asked something to the extent of the military power of Europe, not really something that you wanted to see increased, enhanced militarism. Um, and do you still feel that way since the last time we talked?
General, I never want to spend money on the military. No, I stand to what I said last time. In a perfect world, I want to spend that money on education and culture and healthcare, good things that we need. Do we have to spend more money on the military? I'm afraid so. I think it's nowadays unavoidable. And it is a fact that in like in Germany, we had, now of course I didn't look that word up, but we had the Wehrpflicht, which means every young man of a certain age had to serve for like it was a certain amount of time in the beginning, 2 years in the military, and then they reduced it. But it was like you had to do that.
We call that the draft in America.
Yeah, but
Draft,
yeah,
yeah.
but it's just like a certain amount of time and then you leave. And it was in the end, it was like a really short amount of time, like 6 months or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. They
Mm-hmm.
got rid of that because, well, we felt quite safe and secure, and we thought we didn't need that anymore. And now they are thinking about bringing it back, actually, because we feel threatened by the world. But mostly we feel threatened by Putin
Mm-hmm.
in Europe. I mean, this is very close to home. And it is true that we feel we cannot rely on the United States of America anymore. And they used to be our biggest partner, our most closest ally. And with Trump, he's unreliable. First of all, he is, forgive me when I say that, but he's an idiot, of course, and he is also threatening actively territories of the European Union. And Greenland is, although it is far away from the continent, but it is part of Denmark. And if he threatens to invade Greenland, he's threatening the whole European Union. So we feel like sort of in the middle of the sandwich between Putin on the one side and then the United States to the other side. And yeah, we need to spend more money on the military. And I don't like that. It's just because of these horrible, I feel like I want to swear a lot more.
You're
But
allowed to swear on this show. This is yeah. We don't have any censors of that nature.
these
Please feel free.
egotistic, yeah, these absolute egotistical idiots who start conflicts just for themselves and not for anybody else. Like Putin did not have to invade the Ukraine. That was and Trump does not have to invade Venezuela, or he doesn't have to threaten his allies and try to get his hands on Greenland. it worked fine beforehand. Like the NATO, we are partners, we are allies, we can work together. The United States can send troops to Greenland if they want to. It's part of the NATO thing. Like nobody has to invade Greenland. So, and that makes me so angry, unbelievably angry. But well,
Yeah,
what can
well,
you do?
which pretty much sets up for the next question. So I won't read the whole thing. I'll just ask you this: does Europe
Mhm.
feel like they're alone in this fight for the preservation of democracy?
I don't think we feel completely alone because at the moment we're just looking for different allies. I mean, it's sad to say that we don't feel like we can rely on the United States anymore, politically speaking. And again, I want to say that I still very much like a lot of American people, like you, and I have a lot of friends over there. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the Americans are bad. I'm saying your government is bad at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I hope you know that.
Well, we agree with that. The government is bad
Yeah.
at the moment. So
So
how do you assess Ukraine's situation now that you mentioned that Trump is so unreliable? Are you really worried about their ability to sustain Putin's aggression?
I uh, I feel the Ukraine has the problem that the war is going on too long. And you know how it is after a few years, people start to not care anymore. And that is, I'm not saying the European Union doesn't care. We, of course, we support the Ukraine and they still get weapons and they get money, etc. But the longer such a war goes on, the more tired people are of it. In the beginning, you see it all over the news, and then, the news die down a little bit, and then it's on the second page, and then it's just small bits and pieces in the papers. And I mean, it's been going on for 3 years now,
Mm-hmm.
3 years. And I feel for the Ukrainians, but it is a fact that after a while, people start to not think about it as much as they did in the beginning. So I hope we can even still support them for as long as they need to. But I hope with our help, they will be able to, well, win whatever winning is in the situation. But I think both the Ukraine and Russia are by this point a bit tired of, even Russia, I think, even Putin, I think, has at some point to find a way to make peace because it's just draining the resources also of Russia. So that is why they were talking, like, where was it, in Saudi Arabia or in the
Somewhere in the Middle East.
somewhere in the Middle East, they
Yeah.
had these talks. So I think it says something that Russia wants to talk about peace because I think they cannot go on forever like that. And I just wanted to say, because we are looking for allies elsewhere. That was, sorry, the last question before that. We are now just looking in terms of economy and maybe also in terms of political allies, for example, to India. Like India and the European Union have just made a contract about the economy where tariffs that are actually in place on both sides are lowered so that India, for example, imports more German cars because that's what we mostly sell. And we import more goods from India as well. And like the European Union in general is also then open more to Indians on the job market. So there have been connections beforehand as well, but that just is in my opinion, a direct result of Trump's horrible politics in terms of economy and the tariffs. It's just a fact that we are looking elsewhere, and there are other countries in the world that we can deal with, that we can trade with. So I don't know how far that will go in terms of military alliances, but in terms of the economy, it's already happening, definitely.
Is China in that mix as well as India?
We are all very reliant on China and all of the goods that are produced there. There was not a specific contract now with China that I am aware of at the moment. But with India, that is a very recent thing. And I mean, China is also suffering under Trump's unreliability, so I would not be surprised if at some point we would be making a deal with China. I think it would benefit both sides.
Hmm.
And we are importing basically nearly everything from China anyway. So, yeah.
So you already have a pretty solid trading partnership with China at this time.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's everywhere you go, electronics, household goods. I'm not saying everything is made in China, but nearly everything is made in China. So there is a lot of trade going on anyways. Yeah.
Well, they've built up a solid manufacturing base there, where especially in electronics. You know,
Mm,
Apple produces all its devices over there, pretty much.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
Go
mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, also, I mean, as I said, the car companies are the most important part of the German economy, and they all nowadays also have plants in or factories in China, and they produce there for the local market. But a lot of also the stuff that is, of course, used in cars in terms of electronics and chips, etc. I mean, a lot of that is made in China as well.
Mhm.
So I don't think we'd be even I don't think we could even work without China at that point anymore. I don't think that would be possible. I think the European Union realized during the pandemic that we, even in terms of medicine, we are very reliant on imports from China and India as well. I think so. We're trying to at least become a little bit more independent in just in case we have another pandemic at some point. We just need to focus to produce that a little more locally. But a lot of the other stuff, yeah, absolutely dependent on China.
Okay, what is your assessment of Trump's speech and how it
Mhm.
was received in Davos? You've had these questions, so I'm sure if you didn't hear the speech beforehand, you you managed to get a listen. So, what do you think about
I,
that?
to be completely honest with you, Paul, I did not watch this speech completely. I saw a little clips, like little video clips in the news. And that was enough because that man gives me anxiety. And I thought about the last few days, okay, just for Paul, do I want to watch this speech? Do I want to do this to me? And I'm sorry that I have to say I did not want to do this to me because it gives me anxiety. That man, whenever I see him, it's just you want to throw stuff. You want to destroy something because I saw like this little video clip where he said, oh, I could use force to get what I want, but I will not do it. And I was like, okay, what a way to inspire respect and loyalty in your allies, to just basically threatening them that, oh yeah, I could invade you, I could destroy you. I'm not gonna. I'm yeah, I'm sorry that I did not watch the whole thing, but
You
I
don't
could
need
not.
to apologize. Your mental health is way more important than listening to that knucklehead ramble
Yeah,
on the way he does. Hey, we in America have to put up with that all the time. There
yeah,
is
and I
no coherence at all in what comes out of his mouth. Um,
I
so
feel so sorry for you, honestly,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
My sympathies. And just, I know everybody was really waiting for that speech, so I know, of course, what was going on around that. And I felt at least a little bit better since Macron, the French president, gave apparently a speech. And some other politicians also did not,
The Canadian Prime
yeah,
Minister
yeah.
got a
Since
standing
people did
ovation.
Yeah, did not just go with whatever Trump said, but stood up to him. And we don't have another chance. Like we love the Canadians. Let's work together. Let's be allies. We are all afraid of Trump. So the European Union, Canada, Southern American countries, India, whoever wants to work together so that we can be sure that we are a little more secure from Trump. And that is for me, honestly, I feel it feels so horrible to me to say that we are scared of the United States of America. But it has come to this point, and it's just Trump's doing. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of the American people. I'm scared of this man there in the White House. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he generates fear. He generates, and that's his goal, to generate fear. And so, what we need to do collectively, I'm talking globally, all of us, is stand up to that son of a bitch.
Yes.
And I was really appreciative of the way that the Europeans went ahead and deployed those troops to Greenland for military exercises, just to show that. And that really is what it took. I mean, he backed down after that happened. And that's what about this next question here. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it and let you comment on it. After Trump's speech, which you chose not to listen to, but only a few clips, which is fine, he announced on Truth Social that he had an agreement on Greenland. And I believe that was all about trying to save face, this announcement. Shortly after that, he was interviewed on CNBC, where he said that there was a concept of a framework of a future deal, but offered no details. When pressed by the interviewer on CNBC about how long the agreement would be in effect, Trump said, forever, forever. When asked if Denmark was party to the negotiations, Trump said, well, he assumed that they were on board. And you may not be aware of this, Christina, but Trump has had a concept of a framework of a national health care plan, which he claimed would be released in a few weeks. He's been saying this for the past 10 years. Now, I know what you feel because you've been pretty clear about that. But has Europe reached the obvious realization that most of us in America already know, that this man is just totally full of it? Does the rest of your allies or the population which you share as a European citizen, as a German citizen, do they come to that same realization as you?
As you said, full of it.
Full of it, yes. Full of shit is what I have written down. He is the man.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah,
shit. Yes.
He is. I don't even know. Like everybody in Euros, when you start talking about Trump, you just roll your eyes because, like, oh my God, what has he done again? What has he said now? What did he do now? We are just. It's so unbelievable that, like, your country that has brilliant presidents, in our opinion, like Barack Obama. We love Obama. We'd love to have him back, but we know he had his 2 terms and that's it. Although I'm very sure that Trump wants a 3rd term or maybe a 4th or how, I don't know. But of course, we all know Trump is, first of all, I feel like he is dumb and he does not know what is going on in the world. He does not know any of the nuances of international politics. He just does what he wants in the moment. He is, as we talked about it, he's like a child. He feels like, oh, I want this, and now I want this. What do I do to get it? And nobody in his government has the guts to stand up to him and say, this is a stupid idea. Because of course, then he just fires them, or I don't know, buries them, politically speaking. So
actually, what has happened is that there were people in his first term who did that, which slowed him down. But he was very careful in selecting his staff in the second term, that he was going to pick people that were going to be totally sycophantic and did not care at all about anything except their loyalty to him. And that was the criterion. And so there's absolutely no logic or sense of decency in these people that he surrounds himself with, only loyalty to him.
People, I mean, it's sometimes I see them on the news surrounding him, and then I'm like, how can you live with any kind of respect for yourself? Just standing there and worshiping this man who is obviously an idiot and obviously a threat to the world and to your country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can you with good conscience support this man? But there are always people who look out for their own interests just by doing that.
Yeah. In coherence with what you just said, this next question is about that as well. The fear that you expressed, the fear that I have, that scares me the most about Trump's imperial ambitions, that is the ease in which he bombs Iran, bombs Syria, bombs Nigeria, Yemen, Venezuela, bombs the tiny boats in the Caribbean Sea and the Eastern Pacific, stealing oil tankers on the high seas without a peep from Congress about the violations of the Constitution or international law. These are so easily achieved by him. That's what scares me the most. The fact that the resistance to Trump's just horrible activity isn't happening. So why not Greenland, Cuba, Mexico, or Canada? He's actually claimed that Canada would look good as the 51st American state, is their own sovereign nation. So are you as frightened about that fact that he can do it so easily? So far, there hasn't been any stopping him doing it. I mean, Maduro's in prison in New York City.
Something that we don't expect these things to happen. Like, of course, there are laws and you have your constitution and everything, but to a certain extent, this is all built upon the opinion that we should follow the rules, that everybody should follow the rules. And we are used to people in government, presidents, following the rules of the constitution and the law. And we are absolutely surprised if someone doesn't do that. Because usually, I mean, don't get me wrong, of course, to a certain extent, there might be legal problems, things, but not to the extent that a president just goes and says, I don't care what Congress says, I just do whatever I want. But I feel like there you see how much our societies are built on trust and respect in regards to the laws and the constitution. As long as we all agree that we should follow the rules and the laws, okay, we can live together quite peacefully in a way. But if somebody just doesn't care and just says, I'm just going to try, then we realize that if it is built on trust and respect, and you have a man like Trump who doesn't respect anyone or anything, he just doesn't care. And then I think everybody is so shocked by that that sometimes the reactions are slow. We're just standing there and thinking, he can't do that. Can he? He just does it. And everybody thinks he can't do that, but obviously he can. And I think we are not used to have to think about how to stop someone in power with that kind of power. I mean, I have to say that the constitutions of Germany and the United States are very different there. Like our constitution was designed after World War II specifically to not give anybody that much power. So I don't know the details of how it works in the United States, but I assume that the president in the United States has a lot more power than what our president or chancellor has.
Well, what happened was whenever they first drafted the Constitution, 1787, the president did not have that much power. But over the course of these 250 years, Congress has allocated that power to him. And what was most disturbing was our Supreme Court gave him absolute immunity from criminal activity. So now we have a White House that the Supreme Court says you cannot even investigate anything as long as he frames his criminal activity into what is called an official act. Then so the Supreme Court and Congress has basically given this power to Trump. And that's, another very scary thing. Now, talking about stopping this, this is one of the things that has happened. When Trump started playing yo-yo with his threats to tariff any country that didn't acquiesce to his demands, then he would back off, sometimes within hours after declaring victory. After that, he was given the name the Taco President, which means Trump always chickens out. You understand the word about what chickening out means, yeah? When a number of European nations deployed troops to Greenland for these military exercises, Trump blasted them with threats of enormous tariffs. But now he's announced his deal of a concept of a future framework. He said that the tariffs were no longer needed. So that big threat that he made to these European leaders about, you deploy these troops to Greenland, I'm going to go, he backed off as soon as he had this conversation, I think, with the head of NATO. So how seriously should these European leaders react to this taco propensity? Are you muted again?
I don't know. I don't think so. Can you
You're
hear me?
good. Okay, I hear you now.
Okay,
I hear you now.
okay. Yeah. I was just thinking for a second or two, but because the problem is you have a gentleman who is the president of the United States, who is like one of the most powerful men on earth. So not taking him seriously when he threatens you is probably not a good idea. To a certain extent, you have to think about what he's saying to kind of take it seriously. On the other hand, he has been so inconsistent in what he's doing. And as you said, he chickens out every time that by now everybody's thinking probably like, okay, we don't know what he's going to do next, so we probably shouldn't even listen to what he's saying. But I think you cannot disregard all of what he says. You have to deal with the probability or the possibility that he could do something immensely stupid today, tomorrow, in 5 minutes. You never know. So I wish we could just not listen to anything he says. I mean, as you know, I try not to listen to too much that is on the news about him. As a politician in Europe, I think you cannot do that. You have to deal with what he does and says. So as much as I wish we could just disregard everything he says, as a politician, you can't do that. You have to try. Yeah.
There's two strategies that I've seen employed, both in America with our university presidents, our big law firms, and also in Europe with some of the ways in which they lavish praise on him. Is that you blow smoke up his butt, or you get tough with him. And what I'm seeing is that when you get tough with him and you stand up to him, he might not like that at first, but it seemed to be effective with his whole Greenland issue. It was Macron, it was the prime minister from Canada. They just said no. I mean, the prime minister of Denmark said, or maybe the king, I don't know who. No, Greenland belongs to Denmark, and you can't have it. But you can go ahead and put troops there if you want, because that's the deal we've had. The deal was since I think it was World War II. They've had this deal, or maybe it's shortly after World War II. They had the deal that America could basically do anything they wanted with Greenland, but for Trump, he had to own it because he's a real estate guy, and you don't want to rent, you want to own. And it's kind of like how
Does not own. Are you aware of that?
he does not own Greenland.
No, is he aware of the fact that he doesn't own the United States, that he is simply the president and he doesn't own it? Sometimes fully, I don't know.
Think he is. I don't think he is aware of that. I really don't.
He treats it like I have seen like the news about these protests, like we don't have a king, we have a president, no kings, etc. But I sometimes feel like he feels like a king. He feels like he can do whatever he wants, whatever the fuck he wants. Sorry for cursing again, but it felt appropriate.
And I think that emboldenment that you just described came from the Supreme Court saying that we can't hold him criminally liable for anything that he deems as an official act.
So actually, your political system was enabling Trump to a certain extent.
To a large extent, yes.
Yeah.
To a
Yeah.
large extent.
By the way, I just wanted to say, I think the European prime ministers, presidents, etc., are just getting used to the fact that they have to stand up to Trump. Like I said, you have to deal with him somehow. And up until now, we've never had to do that. We've never had to say stop to an American president. So it's weird and new. And now that Macron did it, and also the Canadian prime minister said it, and Denmark said it, they're getting used to the fact that they can actually do that. And that we have to say stop, because otherwise, what you gonna do? And I said it, I think I mentioned it beforehand, but Greenland belongs to Denmark, or it is. Greenland is also, it's not completely independent, but it's its own region, but it belongs to Denmark and therefore to the European Union. And if you attack Greenland, you attack all of us. That's the idea behind being allies. We stick together, and we always thought that the USA were part of that.
Yeah. But I think the point that we both agree with now is, instead of flattering Trump, which was the strategy used prior to this big thing over Greenland, they found that it's more effective to stand up to him and say, no, you can't do that. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. As the Nazis were rounding up the Jews in the 30s and 40s, a common practice was to ask for the papers from the people they stopped. They didn't hesitate to break into houses where the Jews were suspected of residing. Today, ICE and border control agents are stopping vehicles, invading retail businesses, breaking into homes with skin color as the sole criterion for these detentions. And even when American citizens are producing passports and birth certificates indicating citizenship, they are oftentimes still detained for resisting federal agents. Do these comparable similarities make you eerily uncomfortable as they do me? Christina, you are very, very down on what happened in your country in the 1930s and 40s, and are reluctant to compare any of the horrors that occurred subsequent to that with what is happening now. But you got to be a little uncomfortable, right?
To say, this makes me absolutely uncomfortable. As I said, I don't want to compare Trump to Hitler. I still feel like there's a difference there. But what makes me very uncomfortable is ICE, because that is, for me, the similarities to the SS that the Nazis used to basically instill fear in all of their opponents, to beat opponents up, to round up the Jews and bring them to the concentration camps. That these similarities are very, very obvious. The fact that you have, well, they are called federal agents, but the fact that you have people that are masked and can just basically pull anyone out of the streets and bring them to a detention center, that they have the right to do so without, as you call it, like due process, without just having to show like an ID, or just saying who they are and what people are taken away from. Like, that is as far, like, I am, as you said, I don't want to compare Trump to Hitler, but I want to compare ICE to the SS, because that is dangerous. If you do not talk about who you are, if you don't show your face, you do not talk what you're doing with the people, where you're bringing them, and what is happening to them, well, you can do anything you want. And this is, at the moment, they say, oh, we're just taking the immigrants that are not allowed to be here. Yeah, how long will they stop there? I mean, basically what is, and the most scary part to me is that these detention centers, who is going there? Who is seeing, who is overviewing or overlooking what is happening there? Who knows that?
Well, they
And
won't
that
even let the Congress people in charge of oversight in. They won't even let them
and
in.
yeah, and how do you make sure then that people in there are not abused or tortured? I'm not saying they are, but do you know?
There
That
are
cannot happen.
reports. There are reports of abuse in these places.
Yes.
Yes.
And that breeds the fact that nobody, oh, not even Congress, that should not happen. Politicians should be have the right, they have the right to go in there. Why don't they have the right to go in there?
Because Trump
Why
says
are
we.
they not? Yeah, and that is abuse of his power. Like the president should not be allowed to do that because then he can build up his private army basically now. That is what the SS was for Hitler. And it seems like ICE is giving massive fundings to ICE. They do not, I know now they have to wear body cams or something, I think I heard.
That hasn't been passed yet. They're still debating that in Congress. Where as we sit now, that law has not been passed yet.
Yeah, and you have to have law enforcement, but law enforcement has to follow the laws and they have to be held responsible for what they do. And it seems like ICE is not being held responsible for anything.
Do you think that the people who elected Trump twice, people in America who elected Trump twice, have the respect of the values from other people across the globe? Do Europeans have respect for American values now that they have seen that what we did was elected Trump twice?
Which I could say yes, but no. I'm sorry to say that the United States of America as a country has lost if a lot, if not all, the respect that it had up until now. Especially Germany was always very grateful to the Allies. Like opinions shifted over the decades, but now we were very, very grateful for the Allies defeating the Nazi regime because not every German was a Nazi. So we think of it nowadays as a liberation. We were very, very grateful for that. But over the last 10 years with Trump and a little bit before, it started earlier to a little bit with George W. Bush, but not to the extent that it is now. But with Trump, the United States has lost the respect of, I can't speak for the world, but of Europe, pretty much. And that is sad because I know that the United States of America it's not just Trump. And I've seen news reports on protests against Trump. People like on the media that are opposing him and trying to do good journalism and open up like everything he's doing, all of the mistakes, all of the horrible things that are happening. Like I see the American people, but as a country, Trump is actively destroying the reputation of the United States and all of the respect that America ever had. And that is sad to see because America did a lot of good things, or the United States did a lot of good things for the world. And if one man can destroy all of that.
Have you seen any reports of what's happening in Minnesota?
Yes, yes, all of it. Renee Good was
Yeah,
the lady that was shot.
Good was. Yeah, she was
And
driving
then
her car away from the school where she
mhm,
dropped off her kid, and she was killed.
and was shot.
Yeah,
Yes, and there was the gentleman. He was a nurse, I think.
Alex Preddy was his name.
Yes,
Yeah,
Alex Preddy.
yeah.
Yeah, we saw the reports, and again, that is just to me unbelievable that she was. I've seen also the reports about uh, what the Trump government said happened and what the videos showed what happened. And this is also one of the similarities between, of course, what is happening in America now and in the 1930s with the Nazis is the propaganda. Like immediately, if something happens that could be used against you, you just turn it around and like make these victims the enemies. It's like correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that it was said that Renee Good was attacking the ICE agents with her car, and that Alex Pretty was also endangering them with a gun, which he didn't have in his hands. They took away from him. So it is all of this is everything is turned around to make it look like the ICE agents were the victims when in fact they were the attackers. And this is for me, I saw, and again, I try to stay away from it, but you can't. So I saw how Alex Pretty was shot. He is lying on the ground. He is restrained by, I think there are 5 or 6 people around him. And you see them shoot him several times, not just once, several times. That is not an accident. That's murder. If you ask me, my humble opinion, that is murder in an open street. Also, how horrible is it that I have to say that? If it happens in one of these detention centers, who knows? Nobody knows, because you don't know what's going on in there. But this happened in a street in an American city with people watching. And how yeah. So yeah, we saw that. We know about it. We know about what happens. And this again, I say it so often, it's just unbelievable. Every time we hear news like that, we are under shock and we're like, this is not happening. This is the United States of America. How can this happen? Well, it does. It does. And I think of also just one last thing, and then I'm done. I just feel like now it has become such a big thing in the media, and that is sad to say, because these were white people.
Citizens.
Because citizens,
They were
American citizens, and that now gives, of course, a big like I'm just struggling for lacking the words, but now you have this big response because they are American citizens. But that makes you realize that ICE, I don't know, I think in the second sense it was strictly, in the second case it was somebody else, not strictly ICE, but a related organization.
Border Patrol. It was the Border
Yes.
Patrol agents. Yes.
Yes. But that, you see that if they can do that, what is stopping them from doing anything else? From killing anybody who opposes Trump? Like that is, I talked to an American student over here. We were talking about the right to protest. And she said, yeah, we have the right to protest. We're just scared now because if you do protest, it means you could end up dead.
I want to give you a date. March 28th is the date set for the next Snow Kings. And if you have been watching anything that's been happening in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you have seen some genuine anger from the American people about what's going on there. Yeah. And if you ask the question, which you just did, what's to stop them? My answer is the American people. It's our responsibility. We're the ones that allowed this to happen by electing that stupid son of a bitch. And now it's our opportunity, our responsibility, our duty to take it down. So look for the next No Kings, March 28th. I believe that you're going to see more people than you did at the other ones. And we have to.
I hope so. Yeah. And that's why I haven't lost hope in the United States of America.
Well, neither have I. Neither have I, because, I feel very connected with the resistance in that way. And so we just have to make sure that we translate not only what happens in the streets on March 28th, but also at the ballot box in November, whenever we elect a new Congress. So, last question coming up here, Christina.
Yes.
Since we have seen all this horror, do you have any hope that the leaders of the democratic nations, I'm not only talking about Europe, I'm talking about everywhere in the world, will stand strong against Trump's bullying, or do you fear that that fear will follow in the historical example that Chamberlain gave the world in 1939 in Munich? What is your, I guess, prophecy as far as how the leaders of the democratic nations are going to behave from here on in?
Stand up to Trump, because there is no alternative, really. You can give in to his threats and you can let him do whatever he wants, then he will take everything. And that is not an alternative. So I think they will stand up to him. They just started to do that. As I said, it's new and I think it's weird and they have to get used to it. But it's happening.
And the reason it's new is because the previous American presidents weren't such assholes as Trump is. So the things that they did, and I'm talking about Biden and I'm talking about Obama. I don't give George W. much credit for that because I think he's pretty much a dick too. But the American presidents have been saying things and doing things that the European people have basically supported. So that's why it's new. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And if you disagree in politics, like you can disagree, you can still treat each other with respect. And that is what I'm missing, of course, with Trump. He has no respect for anybody and he has no decency. And that is something that, even if I'm also not a big fan of George W. Bush, but at least he was trying to behave. He was like showing good manners. He was trying to be respectful to other people. And he was not like Trump, just also not insulting everybody. So yeah, I always feel like we should know that you can disagree on certain things. You can still work together. You can still treat each other with respect. And I feel that since we know that Trump has no respect for anyone and he is also totally unreliable, and he might say one thing on one day and then next day something else, we know that we have to stand up to him. And it's starting to happen. Even Great Britain, which I think has always been way behind everything because they were still so close to the United States, even closer than the rest of us. If even Starmer, I think Keir Starmer is his name, the prime minister. Right. If even he says now, no, Trump, well, I think he was very angry about what Trump said about the United States never needing the allies, never needing the NATO for anything. And then Starmer was very upset about, because British soldiers, Danish soldiers have died in Afghanistan. Right. When the United States, for the first time ever in NATO, asked for, what was it?
Article 5. I think it was Article 3. Yeah. If you attack us, if anyone attacks all of us, we come to your aid.
Exactly. And the United States have been the only one ever invoking that. Mm-hmm. And Europe was at the United States' side. And as I said, I saw once a speech of a senator who said that he was like the one always talking to the NATO, and that Danish soldiers, like proportionate to the population of Denmark, more Danish soldiers had died in Afghanistan than British or French soldiers or German soldiers, for that matter. So that was, again, just the idea that Trump now thinks about invading Denmark, although they were the ones sending soldiers to Afghanistan to support the United States. It's just, yeah, a whole nother matter. But yes, I hope and I think that the other democratic leaders of the world will stand up to him, although it's new and although they have to get used to it, but there is no alternative. And it's just, as I said, this whole Trump topic, whatever he does, gives me anxiety because I feel the threat of a new war. And that is just the fact that I even think about that in the back of my mind is scary. Any war is scary, but the fact that I'm going like through all of the possibilities, what is happening, and the fact that I'm even thinking about it is a possibility that the United States or that Trump just presses a button and attacks Europe for whatever reason. Yeah, that's scary. I think I lost my thought at some point, but
well, the thing is, there's always a villain. George Orwell wrote about this. You always have to have a villain. Right now, the global villain is the United States. We are the most powerful, and we are the scariest, and we have the most aggressive posture of anyone else. I mean, you can put Putin aside, because Putin and Russia are way, way more limited than the United States military power. I mean, we could just go ahead and flatten the globe with our nuclear arsenal.
I just found something I wanted to say again. Sorry if I'm dragging this out, but since you were mentioning Chamberlain in 1938 and the Munich Agreement, is it appeasement policy? Like I always feel like of course, Chamberlain gets a very bad reputation for good reason, but I also wanted to say that I understand why he did it. Like at that time, World War I had been like over for 2 decades, but it was still very present with how people had suffered from that war. And Chamberlain just did not want another war. Right. And that is the same now. Like nobody wants a third world war. So of course, to a certain, like we think we have to sort of appease Trump to not make him push the button. But I think it's starting to dawn on us that it doesn't work. Appeasing him doesn't work. That you can't always give him what he wants, because then he wants everything. And right. So I don't. Sorry?
That was Chamberlain's mistake. Give him what he wants and not realizing that he wants more. He won't stop until he has everything.
Yes, and that in this case, I think also Trump resembles Hitler, because Hitler just lied. He just said one thing and then did the other. Right. And Chamberlain went back home after the Munich meeting with an agreement of Hitler that said Great Britain and Germany should never go to war. And Chamberlain was so proud of himself, and he was applauded for getting that piece of paper. It just didn't mean anything to Hitler. I think Hitler was scolded by his foreign minister and said, "Why did you sign that?" And Hitler was like, "I don't care, that this doesn't mean anything." And the same goes for Trump. You cannot rely on what he says. So you cannot, of course you can try to deal with him, but he will go back on his word. He does not commit to his word. He's not trustworthy. And that is why, like in this case, yes, I would compare him to Hitler. You can't trust him. You can't rely on him.
Got you there. Got you there.
There's 1 point. You get that 1 point for. But yeah, this is why I think, and it's always said we have to learn from history. So I think the European leaders and democratic leaders are well aware of what happened in Munich, and that it didn't work, and that it wouldn't work with Trump either. So to put the whole matter in a nutshell, I think that they will stand up to him, even though it's not easy.
Right. Well, you know what, Christina, you just left this show with hope. I do have the hope. I'm hearing you and your assessment of what the European leaders and the other democratic leaders will do now in regards to Trump is something that we hope will happen. So thank you for joining us again. And next time we come to another crisis, we're going to call on you again. All right?
Or next time, Trump is history and we don't have to deal with him anymore. I'd be happy to join you on another podcast as well.
That'll be a good time. That'll be a good time. Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for having me again.
All right. And all you out there in Cyberland, thanks for listening. Until next time, goodbye.